ongoing retail apocalypse and the commercial real estate crisis are creating a domino effect of bankruptcies and foreclosures and increasing social and economic difficulties for workers, while destroying several iconic businesses across the United States. The huge rental debt load accumulated throughout 2020 and the high rates of vacancy in office and commercial space are weighing down upon the real estate market, which was already on a path for a correction before widespread lockdowns slowed down economic activity and social distancing mandates started to force workers to stay at home. Now, experts are warning that the multi-phase crisis the real estate market is currently facing might not only result in a crash, as it could potentially generate much more financial pain for the entire country in the months ahead. So, welcome to today's Epic Economist video. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel to keep updated with future videos. Reports displaying pictures of empty stores in previously scorching hot markets are becoming more frequent, as the U.S. has been losing some of its most iconic businesses to the current recession. In New York, famous stores based in Soho and other parts of Manhattan are failing as residents have fled away from the city to find safer spots amid the growing social turbulence. Consequently, only between February and October last year, more than 30,000 retail jobs have been lost in the city, and many more are to come, given that most of these businesses have been hanging by a thread. Foot traffic has remarkably declined in the face of continued stay-at-home mandates, and most of these stores are struggling to make enough revenue to survive, and particularly to afford their luxury rental payments. According to Crain's New York, retail spaces in the Fifth Avenue shopping district between 49th and 59th Street had an average of over $3,000 per square foot. In that way, a 2,500 square foot store, for instance, would pay $7.5 million in rent each year under these lease terms. Conversely, if that store starts missing rental payments, the losses the landlord would face would also be in the range of millions of dollars. There is an old saying that the three most important elements in retail success are location, location, location. But nowadays, the cost of being near to a customer base might be too high, considering the fast expanding online shopping trend has been shifting the direction of potential sales to a virtual environment. The decay of physical stores has been largely accelerated by lockdowns and social distancing regulations, and the decrease in the number of people leaving home to work or shop is contributing to the decline in the value of pretty much any retail location. A 2021 Moody's Analytics report outlined that the brick-and-mortar retail sector has so far been the sector most affected by the pandemic and the subsequent rise in e-commerce sales. We project neighborhood and community shopping center vacancy rates to reach a high this year of 12.7%, up from 10.5% at the end of 2020. Empty storefronts do not help to attract customers to visit the businesses that are still open, and the more these businesses find strains to make it through the recession and afford their rental payments, the more the real estate market will struggle. Many retailers were able to negotiate rent concessions over the past year, but these are difficult times for property owners too. Landlords have been missing real estate taxes and mortgage payments since their tenants are becoming increasingly delinquent on their payments. According to Moody's Analytics' latest projections, back rent for commercial real estate properties is nearing $70 billion, which puts us on a debt bubble only comparable in size to what was seen during the Great Recession. Furthermore, as it is getting incredibly hard to find paying tenants to occupy the empty space, landlords have been lowering rent prices and in some cases even bailing out some store chains to help keep business alive. According to Bloomberg, cheap funding costs have extended a lifeline to many troubled big retail store chains, which has helped to decelerate the pace of U.S. bankruptcy filings. But small shops, offices, and hotels continue to be particularly vulnerable to the effects of the health crisis. King & Spalding's financial analyst, Sarah Borders, has pointed out that the real estate industry is facing an existential crisis of what's next. She affirmed that there's no turning back, and there is no way to reverse the ongoing shift to online shopping and remote working. Therefore, the commercial real estate market will likely face more pressure in the months ahead, while office real estate will suffer as employees delay a return to work. The challenges faced by the hospitality industry are also severely impacting the real estate sector. A few weeks ago, Eagle Hospitality Real Estate Investment Trust, which owns corporate, leisure, and airport hotels across the U.S., filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. According to recent data compiled by Bloomberg, 11 companies with more than $50 million of entities have already filed for bankruptcy in the U.S. this year alone. And 2021 just started 2 months ago. The amount of traded distressed bonds and loans is totaling a staggering $128 billion, with 342 distressed bonds from 173 issuers trading as of January 22nd, and that's according to Trace data. That's up from 326 and 167 bonds and borrowers, respectively, 1 week earlier. This data shows that with every week, more and more companies become delinquent to their rental debt, and the debt bubble is one coup short of spiraling out of control. We haven't even started addressing how relentless the recession has been for the office real estate market yet. The most recent loss happened last week, as reported by Wolf Richter in his blog, Wall Street. Salesforce, the largest employer in San Francisco and an anchor tenant in the 1.4 million square foot Salesforce Tower, the tallest building west of the Mississippi, owned by Boston Properties, the largest office landlord in San Francisco, announced today in a blog post that it would switch to a hybrid work-from-anywhere model going forward. We're not going back to the way things were, the president and chief people officer Brent Hyder told the Wall Street Journal. He says, "I don't believe that we'll keep every space in every city that we're in, including San Francisco." Hyder wrote in a blog post that an immersive workspace is no longer limited to a desk in our towers. The 9-to-5 workday is dead, and the employee experience is about more than ping-pong tables and snacks. To accommodate employees when office work is resumed, the company will not need so much office space, and the layout of the remaining offices will be dramatically changed into community hubs to accommodate a more hybrid work style. Gone are the days of a sea of desks, said Hyder, who moved out of San Francisco to Southern California last year. As more and more CEOs move the headquarters of their companies away from metropolitan areas, the rates of vacant office space on the market are exploding to all-time highs, exceeding prior records set during the financial crisis and the dot-com bust to 13.9 million square feet, according to Cushman & Wakefield. Sublease space is accounting for more than half of the total vacant office space, as companies have been putting on the market their now unneeded office space, attempting in every way to decrease their rental debt, but still failing to do so. Richter report highlights that Twitter has put 104,850 square feet of office space that's attached to its headquarters building on the sublease market, while Glassdoor has put about half of its just leased headquarters of 117,000 square feet on the sublease market, and Pinterest paid $89.5 million to abandon a lease for 490,000 square feet of office space that hasn't even been built yet. Just as Salesforce, several other companies such as Uber, Old Navy, Yelp, Oracle, and Dropbox have all been dumping office space as they start to shift their operations to the virtual environment permanently. Note that these are all big companies that decided to make budget cuts in the face of the setbacks brought on by the crisis. Small businesses, on the other hand, are being wiped out from the United States economic landscape by the thousands. This means that a considerable rate of the commercial and office properties that were emptied as a result of the recession might never be occupied ever again. That's exactly the warning of economic advisor Sacha Lord, who maintained that the ongoing retail apocalypse and the commercial real estate crisis will create a domino effect of closures and increase social and economic hardships unless spaces are promptly repurposed. He argued that all across the globe, high streets are changing beyond all recognition, and this brings severe and stark challenges. Lord sustained that the move to online is inevitable. However, as these stores close, we need to look ahead at what will replace them. The groundwork needs to start now to repurpose empty retail stores or risk the end of the high street as we know it. The expert stresses that authorities must act to prevent the complete emptying of sectors that rely on foot traffic to exist. He explains that the extraordinary amount of bankruptcies being filed every week can compromise not only the socio-economic growth of local areas, but the economy as a whole, as more workers are on the verge of being laid off, and the labor market crisis is already extremely inflamed. Additionally, the more the real estate debt bubble expands, the more likely it is for it to explode and acutely disturb the financial markets. In short, pretty much every segment of the real estate sector is facing a crisis of its own. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen? In this video, we haven't yet even mentioned the insanity happening in the residential real estate segment, because that deserves a separate video and a different analysis. But in any case, when both commercial and housing markets are added together, we have one of the biggest debt crises in all United States history. While prices of commercial properties have been sharply declining, housing prices are now in the most splendid bubble ever recorded. And it goes without saying that this unbalance is going to make conditions pretty unsustainable very soon. Just as for the stock markets, it isn't easy to accurately forecast the precise time a crash will occur, but by analyzing historical patterns, it is possible to see when one is coming. And knowing that at this stage of the economic downturn we're trapped into an everything bubble, it's just a matter of time until the real estate market blows up in the air and repeats the same scene we've watched during the last bubble burst. Only this